Welcome and thank you so kindly for watching my video. This article that I read recently states Williams has decided to remove the Senna logo from the 2022 Williams F1 car. Honestly, I was in shock. Why was I? Allow me to explain. If you looked at my prior videos, I talked about how in 1997 I found Formula One watching TV surfing channels by accident. And it just so happened in 1997, I also mentioned when I bought my first E36 BMW M3. So I was everything BMW, and just so happened, as I became everything Formula One, read everything I could find, I found out that BMW will return to Formula One in the year 2000. I was so excited because it's the brand that I love the most coming back to the sport that I love the most. It was a huge news. I was so elated. I couldn't wait for the start the season 2000, Formula One season 2000. Now, if you look back, because I'm a reader, I read a whole lot about Formula One and money. Well, if you look back to when Nelson Piquet Brabham BMW won the championship in the 80s, that car that Nelson Piquet drove, the Brabham BMW, was simply sensational. I never forgotten when they asked BMW the horsepower of that 1.5 liter was making. It stated, and I've never forgotten it, I paraphrase, the car made 1,400 horsepower. And how did they know that? That was the maximum the dyno was able to produce. So the car was very likely made more than 1,400 horsepower. As a result, they actually banned turbos from that era. Those were the days. And if you never seen the Brabham BMW driven by Nelson Piquet, if you're a fan of Formula One, please Google it. Listen to that car around the track. You can't help it but fall in love. So once again, when Williams decided to use a BMW engine in the year 2000, I couldn't be happier. Now we know that's the FW22. And do you remember the first year BMW came into Formula One? The first race, Ralf Schumacher and BMW scored third. They made the podium. And again, that day I will never forget. I will never forget. I want to talk a bit about Ralf Schumacher. He's far from being my favorite driver. He was a driver I felt was lackluster. I watched Schumacher race and never once. Remember the Williams FW23 and FW24 were known as the most powerful engine in Formula One. The most powerful engine in Formula One. They made the most horsepower in Formula One. Unfortunately, in my opinion, they had the wrong driver in Ralf Schumacher. Ralf Schumacher had never, ever passed Michael Schumacher on track. Every time it was Ralf versus Mike, Ralf Schumacher just follows Mike Schumacher to the finish line. The other driver was actually once my hero, Juan Pablo Montoya. My ex-girlfriend used to call me Juan Pablo Montoya because I talked so much about Juan Pablo Montoya. Juan Pablo Montoya was an amazing, amazing driver, meaning that he was extremely aggressive to a point when that was his weakness. Juan Pablo will attempt to pass you whether the race is 72 laps or 5 laps remaining. He will pass you at all costs, and most often he passes you by committing errors. But if you've been watching Formula One, I don't have to mention the year. All I'm going to tell you is Juan Pablo's pass of Michael Schumacher at the Brazilian Grand Prix with all 4 wheels locked, with half of the car on the dirt, was simply unforgettable. I was so taken. And not just me, the entire Brazilian spectators went berserk. Went berserk. Juan Pablo made so many mistakes. But Ralph Schumacher and Juan Pablo Montoya in the Williams FW23 and FW24 were something to be seen. If you've never seen those cars, please go back and watch those. Again, Ralph was not my driver. Juan Pablo was not calculating. Therefore, unfortunately, they could have done a lot better, and it didn't happen. Well, why am I saying all of it? All of it is because the article that I read that Williams will remove the Senna S from the nose of the car in the year 2022. That really shocked me and it saddens me. We know that the logo, Senna's logo, has been on the car since 1994 after Senna's death at the San Marino Grand Prix. If you're a Formula One fan, you cannot not be a fan of Senna. You cannot. Senna is simply one of the greatest drivers ever. We know that Lewis Hamilton often praises Senna as how Senna inspired him. We know that Lewis Hamilton's early helmets were inspired by Senna's. So, according to the new Williams boss, I think it's Jas Capilto, excuse me if I mispronounce his name, but it's Jost Capilto, decided that they felt moving forward is why they decided to remove the S. It does make sense. They're going to create more space at the museum in memory of Senna, but for them, the drivers seeing that logo was a reminder of what happened in 1994. I could not disagree more. If I was a Formula One driver, which was been my dream, nothing would make me prouder than to sit in a car with Senna's logo on the front of it. I think Senna must remain in Formula One. I would be so elated if only Lewis Hamilton decides in 2022 to add the Senna S on his helmet. It would be a disaster, in my opinion, for Senna to be missing on any race for the rest of the time. If you've never seen Senna under wet chasing Prost at 10 seconds a lap quicker, and then the FIA, led by the French, stopped the race because they knew that Senna was going to pass Prost and win the race. You know, today's funny, someone commented on my video that Senna is like Lewis Hamilton. He wasn't liked as much by the governing body, and that's so true. Well, I'm definitely devastated with the news that Senna S will not be on the Williams car. Again, I pray that Lewis Hamilton takes that S and carries it on his helmet because Senna deserves that. Thank you always for watching. God bless you. Thank you so very much.